Welcome to the Be Wise podcast. I am your host, Chris Wright, where we talk politics, sports, entertainment, and social media. Forgive me, I'm losing my voice. I went to Atlantic City. I had a real estate convention, kind of an educational conference for the last 3 days. There was a lot of classes, a lot of partying and stuff like that. But anyway, so my voice is a little hoarse. But today, while I was in Atlantic City, the news about Caitlin Clark came out, winning Time Magazine 2024 Athlete of the Year. I'm very proud of her. As you know, I'm a Caitlin Clark fan. But I was extremely disappointed at the news that came out about her in her Time Magazine interview, that she basically, is what everyone's saying, is bent the knee. I made a TikTok back on June 15th of 2024, when Caitlin was going through hell. And she was getting flagrant fouls. A lot of players of the WNBA were saying all types of things about her and calling her fans racist, and Caitlin wouldn't speak on it. Even when analysts and WNBA talking heads tried to get her to talk about it, she just wouldn't do it. Sue Bird and Megyn Rapinoe, they had their own little podcast, and they gave their thoughts on the league and Caitlin Clark and the racism and white privilege and the whole nine. Caitlin wouldn't go there, and I was so proud of her. I was like, you're doing the right thing. Watch the TikTok that I did on June 15th, because I thought she would hold fort and she wouldn't go there. Don't fall for it, Caitlin. Don't you fall for it. Stay strong. Stay strong. There's a lot of people that are out there that's trying to get you to view the world through a racial lens, to get involved in this politically correct social justice movement. Don't do it. All right. So what some people don't know is that Des Moines, Iowa has a very, very large minority population. Being around minorities is not foreign to her. It has a 5% black population. I bet a lot of people didn't know that. I bet you thought that it was white bread, farm country, Iowa. No, look it up. Des Moines, look at the black population in Des Moines. It's pretty significant. Even her high school was like 25 to 30% minorities, blacks, Hispanics, Asians, and other. All right. So it's not like she doesn't know how to operate, how to move, how to be or conduct herself around minorities. But they want you to start this talking. Now, here's the thing, Caitlin, you can't win. You cannot win, because if you go woke, you're going to lose a lot of those conservative fans. And then if you decide that you're going to speak out against it, then you're going to lose all of the liberal and woke fans. So you stay neutral, you stay right in the middle, get that Nike money, get those endorsements. They will never be able to say that you took a side. You know what you said that was correct? You did the Will Smith. Keep my name out of your mouth. I don't appreciate you using my name to wage war. You keep it up. I love what you're doing. You know what? They hate you because they ain't you. Peace. So yeah, I was very proud at that time back in June of how Caitlin was holding it down. But she got a lot of pressure. Now, here's what I want to say. I'm going to give her some grace. Caitlin, 23, 22 years old. When I was 22 or 23, if I had that much attention, if I had that many people pushing me to be woke, to be politically correct, to say the right things all the time, I might have broken under pressure. So I'm going to give her grace. But I didn't have handlers. I didn't have coaches and people that were directing me in the right, in the right way. Michael Jordan was asked about politics. He said Republicans wear sneakers too. He never really lived that down. And there was a lot of black people who turned on Michael Jordan and didn't like him. So sometimes I think when you have handlers and you have people like that, they need to guide you in the right direction. Now, it's no secret that Caitlin Clark's, the majority of her fan base around America are people who never watched basketball. Mostly, you know, probably predominantly white people from all over America. Conservatives loved her. Republicans loved her. She only hit one little bump in the road when she had liked Taylor Swift's tweet, but that was quickly forgotten. But for the most part, she stayed clean. And her predominantly white fan base, her conservative fan base, continued to support her through the flagrant files, through the media firestorm, to the woke, mob, through the WNBA players, the Angel Reeses, the Lisa Leslies, the Cheryl Swoops. We all defended her. And we were like, you do your thing. So for her to come out and then acknowledge her white privilege, to acknowledge her indebtedness to the black players in the WNBA, it was disappointing. So you might say, Chris, you're a black man. Why are you upset about this? Because I don't recall Tiger Woods having to talk about his achievements in golf in a predominantly white sport. I don't recall Venus and Serena Williams having to talk about their indebtedness to, fumbling over that word, I'm sorry. But I never saw the Williams sisters talk about what they owe to the white players and how they built this league in girls tennis. I never heard a black quarterback in the NFL or a black baseball player have to talk about how they were indebted to white players in the NFL or Major League Baseball. And now in 2024, you get a white player in a predominantly black sport. And we suddenly feel like she owes it to us to talk about how she's indebted to the black players that came before her. And that's just not the case. A little history. In 1987, Dennis Rodman was interviewed after a post game was in a post game interview after Larry Bird torched him. And in his anger and frustration, he said if Larry Bird was a white player or black player, if Larry Bird was a black player, he'd just be just another baller. Like there was nothing special about him. So the leader of the Detroit Pistons was Isaiah Thomas. And they went to Isaiah Thomas and said, did you hear what Rodman said? And he said, yeah, I heard. He goes, then he starts to wax poetic about how good Larry Bird is, how what a great basketball player is. And then he repeated what Rodman said and said, yeah, but, I have to agree with Rodman on this. If he was black, he'd just be another good guy. He would just be another ball player. This is 1987. Do the math. 40 years? I don't know. 37 years? I don't know. Anyway, my point is that was 1987. And that statement almost ended Isaiah Thomas' career. Luckily for him, Larry Bird came out and saved his ass and said, listen, Isaiah said he was joking. If I'm not upset about it, I can get over it, all of you too. I mean, the press conference was like hundreds and hundreds of reporters. Larry Bird basically told me, everybody get over it. But what Larry Bird did not do is he did not say, everybody knows Larry Bird was great, Hall of Famer. They called him Larry Legend. Larry Bird did not come out and say, I'm privileged. I feel privileged to be in this league. And I owe all of my success to those who came before me. And we need to start giving more credit to Black players. He did not say that. And if he had said that in 1987, unfortunately, that would have went over probably better than it would go over today, I think. So we all know, and if you don't know what, Caitlin Clark said, basically, it's a whole little speech, and I'm going to show it to you a couple of times. But basically, she came out. She was kind of apologetic for her success. Not apologetic, but she was just giving all the credit due to Black players. I don't know if I'm mad at her for saying what she said. I think I'm mad that she even had to speak about it at all. This was her moment to shine. You won Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. Donald Trump in the same week won Man of the Year, or Person of the Year. And you know Donald Trump, he accepted it, and it wasn't that gracious. But Donald Trump didn't come out and say, I owe this to all the presidents that came before me. I owe this to the Barack Obamas and the Bill Clintons. No. Donald Trump believed he's the Man of the Year. And I thought this was a good time for Caitlin Clark to come out and say, it was a hell of a year. And it was Indiana Fever hasn't been to the playoffs since 2016 or whatever it was. And I'm glad we were able to come together as a team and just take the accolades. You never, ever, ever had to bring race into it. And you didn't owe anybody an explanation. Anybody. I love what Doug Gottlieb said. He's a Fox Sports guy. And he's talking about the pressure and how sad it is that Caitlin Clark felt she had to talk about this.
But the social media pressure for Caitlin Clark to feel bad about the attention that she's earned and say that she has some sort of privilege is sad. Like she can't even enjoy the fact that there is no sports person in the United States, and frankly out of the United States, that can reasonably compare to the year that she had. And her response has to be, it's great. I want to say I earned it, but it's white privilege, and that's not really what this league's about.
It's sad that she felt she had to do that, and she didn't have to do that. You have to ask yourself why she did it. You had to ask, a couple things happened. There's Nike. Did all of these endorsements. I think she was under pressure to get more Black fans. Because as a Black man, if you say you like Caitlin Clark, people said, they would just tell you, they'll call you a name. You're supposed to be down for Angel Reese, or you're supposed to be supporting the Black players in the league, which I do. But Caitlin Clark's my favorite, just because of the way she balls. And more importantly, as a human being, the adversity she overcame. So I got a Caitlin Clark jersey, I got a Caitlin Clark hat, I got a Caitlin Clark hoodie, and I wear it to represent. So yeah, she caught a lot of heat. So here was one of the big stories of the week was after she came out and gave her whole woke speech, Megyn Kelly and Tommy Lauren, they both went off. This is a little bit, a few minutes long, but listen to Megyn Kelly and Caitlin Clark.
Talk about Caitlin Clark.
Yep.
So Caitlin Clark of Iowa, but now playing for Indiana in the WNBA, gets honored in time as the athlete of the year. I don't know. I guess they need a lot of covers or something. I mean, whatever. They just want people who are going to sell their shitty magazine. So she gets selected as athlete of the year. And what does Caitlin Clark do? Like this woman who's a superstar. She's the Michael Jordan of the WNBA. And she's become a phenom in part because the players of the WNBA can't fucking stand her. Why? Mm-hmm. Because she's white. It's abject, absolute racism. It's total racism. And one of the things that's been admirable about Caitlin is she just continues to play her game and put points on the board. And she does very well, and she wins games, and she puts butts in the seats, and she sells tickets, and she gets people tuning in on television. And all really we want to hear from anybody about this is thank you. Thank you to Caitlin Clark for making our league relevant and so on. But instead, she's been bullied repeatedly by the players in this league. She's been assaulted physically. She's been scratched in the eye. And I mean, all of this is on camera. We've covered it repeatedly on the show. So she gets this honor. And all she has to do is continue staying above it. Thank you. I'm grateful. Love being in the WNBA, and I love my colleagues who I play with, my teammates. That's it. Instead, she decides to go racial. And what she says is she feels the need to acknowledge her white privilege. Basically, she's sorry she's white. She feels really bad about it, though, so you should give her a pass. And then she makes a point of saying the ones we really need to be celebrating are the black women on whose backs this league was built, which I have to tell you is so condescending.
It really
It's
is.
true that most of these black women have been bullying her and want her to understand it's their league. Hello, you don't own the league. Blacks don't own the league, just like whites don't own tennis or golf. Nobody owns the league. This is America. Anybody can play if they're good enough. But they want her on the knee. You'll bend the knee and you'll apologize for being white, and you will suck up to the black women who built this league before you, or you will be beaten. You will be assaulted, and you will be bullied with no friends. So she does it. She finally did it. She bent the knee, self-flagellated over white privilege, and look at the black women in this league. And I have to tell you, if I were a black woman in that league, I think I'd say, screw you. Because don't treat me like I am the ugly stepsister and you are Cinderella, and no prince is going to look at me unless Cinderella says, oh, give her a little time. Oh, put her in the spotlight for a moment. I would be offended, genuinely offended by her. Like, look over there. Look at them. They're not white. They did a lot too. And here's the other thing. It's totally insincere. And here's how you know it's totally insincere. Because if Caitlin Clark really felt uncomfortable in the spotlight as the newbie who's white, because white people didn't build the league, she wouldn't have said yes to being Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year. So either walk the walk or don't. But what you're doing here is trying to have it both ways. You're too cute by half, and you've managed to piss off your fan base. Go ahead and look at my Twitter feed and the comments under my tweet on this. She's lost thousands of fans, maybe more, as a result of this. And you will never appease the race bullies in the WNBA, ever, because you're too popular, you're too talented, and too white. That's it.
Megyn is exactly right. I don't like the way Megyn says black. She says it too hard. It's almost like Megyn got in trouble when she had her Megyn Kelly show on NBC, and she said that Santa Claus was white, and Santa Claus will always be white, and Santa Claus should never be any other color. And she started to explain the origins of Santa Claus, and she kept digging her hole deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think that's the last time she's been on television. Very successful podcast, though. But nevertheless, my point was, I digress. made a lot of really, really, really good points. That, like I said in my TikTok, Caitlyn, you can't win by going down that avenue unless you don't care about your fans. If you just say, listen, it's all about basketball, it's all about the W, then say what you want to say. But you answer to a higher power. That higher power is all of those corporations and sponsors that's going to make you very, very rich. Like if LeBron James was the first billionaire in the NBA, Caitlyn very well could be or could have been like one of the first billionaires in the W. So, but she did, like, you just can't win. And like I said, when the Officer Tatum's going to talk about the white savior complex too, where it's usually white women, white liberals who come out and feel they have to gatekeep for Black women and Black people when they aren't asked to do that. And she did it, and it's exactly what she sounded like. Listen to it.
You know, your announcement for Athlete of the Year, like tremendous, incredible positive feedback. That's what we've seen across the board. There's always going to be some negativity. And I feel like you have had to answer more questions than anybody about the intersectionality of race and gender and sexuality in sport because of just who you are and you represent the growth of this thing. And even today, earlier today, Megyn Kelly, she was saying that you were apologizing for your white privilege and the fact that you wanted to uplift Black female athletes and make sure that they were getting the shine, kind of like your pioneers were getting the shine that they deserved. And I just want to know how you feel or how you respond to some of those criticisms when you have to deal with something that it's really not your problem. Like, I feel like it's them looking in a mirror a little bit, but it still comes down on your shoulders.
I feel like I always have had really good perspective on everything that's kind of happened in my life, whether that's been good, whether that's been bad. And then obviously coming to the WNBA, like I've said, I feel like I've earned every single thing that's happened to me over the course of my career. But also, I grew up a fan of this league from a very young age. Like, my favorite player was Maya Moore. Like, I know what this league was about. And like I said, like, it's only been around 25 plus years. So I know there's been so many amazing Black women that have been in this league, and continuing to uplift them, I think, is very important. And that's something I'm very aware of. And like I said, like, I try to just be real and authentic and, you know, share my truth. And I think that's very easy for me. Like, I'm very comfortable in my own skin. And that's kind of been how it is my entire life.
Yeah.
So that's almost like, oopsie. I didn't know. Well, she had to know. To say I didn't know that all of this was going to take place. But now you're going on and on. You're talking about Maya Moore and all the players that you observe. You say that every single time. I gave you a pass, Caitlyn, a couple of times. And every time you talk about, oh, Maya Moore was my favorite player. Maya Moore was my favorite player. Nancy Lieberman, you didn't like her? She was a white player. It's okay that you liked Maya Moore, but I think for you to keep saying it every time you're in an interview, oh, Cheryl Sweeps was my favorite player. Maya Moore was my favorite player. It almost seems like you're pandering. Almost seems like you're pandering. But we were talking about the white savior. Listen to what Officer Tatum says.
But Caitlin Clark essentially doubles down on her push to kiss the ashy elbows of Black women in the WNBA. I don't know why she's doing this. It doesn't stop her from being a good player and a role model to young women. But white people, y'all got to stop being stupid. It's like white liberals and Black liberals are the stupidest people on planet Earth. Y'all got to stop being silly. Stop acting like you a Captain Saver for a Black person. We don't need a white savior. We just like you. We humans too. We all on the same thing. Y'all play basketball the same. Put your underwear on the same. You have that thing every month the same. Roll the clip.
Yeah, you know, your announcement for Athlete of the Year, like tremendous, incredible positive feedback. That's what we've seen across the board. There's always going to be some negativity. And I feel like you have had to answer more questions than anybody about the intersectionality of race and gender and sexuality in sport because of just who you are and you represent the growth of this thing. And even today, earlier today, Megyn Kelly, she was saying that you were apologizing for your white privilege and the fact that you wanted to uplift black female athletes and make sure that they were getting the shine, kind of like your pioneers were getting the shine that they deserved. And I just want to know how you feel or how you respond to some of those criticisms when you have to deal with something that it's really not your problem. Like, I feel like it's them looking in a mirror a little bit, but it still comes down on your shoulders.
I feel
Hold
like
on
I
a
always
second.
have had really.
I want to read Megyn Kelly's thing real quick because it's another melanated person. She misconstrued what Megyn Kelly said. Megyn Kelly did not say that she apologized for her white privilege. Megyn Kelly did not say that. Megyn Kelly's tweet here, I wonder if it's the same. She said, look at this. She's on the knee, all but apologizing for being white and getting attention. The self-flagellation, it says please pay attention to the black players who are really the ones you want to celebrate. Condescending, fake, transparent, sad. Now let me just comment real quick on this. I don't know if they paying her to do this or she's just getting enveloped in this locker room victimhood. You don't have to apologize to these lesbians, these black lesbians, because you're better than them, because you're sexier than they are, because you are professional and you're young. And you're bringing something else to the game. You don't have to apologize to that because nobody cared that you're white. I don't understand that. Only people that care that you're white are black people. The rest of the people.
You know, sports are just so soft lately in this new generation. If you had said something like that about Michael Jordan, or you said something about that, like that about Larry Bird, they would not respond to the media. They would just hunch their shoulders and they would go out on the floor and cook you. I'm going to show you that if I was black, I'd be just another player. And then Larry Bird goes out and get a triple-double, 34 points, 16 rebounds, 12 assists. Never, ever has to talk. And that's what Caitlin Clark could do, okay? If that's the way I feel, I'm not bending the knee. I'm not pandering to anybody. I'm going to go out on the floor, and I'm just going to get a triple-double. And let them call that white privilege. Yep, that's what she would do. And then we have to talk about how the WNBA was a failing league. It was a failing business. And Caitlin Clark saved the league by herself. By herself. Not Angel Reese, and not any of these other players. By herself. Listen to Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire.
Clark is cognizant of the racial underpinnings of her stardom. I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege, says Clark. A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. Okay, two things are happening here. First of all, Clark is crediting black women for building the WNBA. Without black women, she says, there is no WNBA, and she apparently means that as a kind of a compliment, even though in practical terms, it's a bit like praising Bernie Madoff for managing a successful asset management firm, or Elizabeth Holmes for founding Theranos, or Kenneth Lay for running Enron. Normally, when someone creates a business that serves no purpose other than to light people's money on fire, it's not something you praise them for. Okay, so if black women built the WNBA, they built the least successful professional sports league ever. And also, it's not even true, by the way. The WNBA was built and is still maintained by the NBA. So men built the WNBA. Without men, the WNBA would not exist. But Caitlin Clark is coming out and crediting black women for their role in establishing a league that nobody watches. She says that black women in particular deserve to be elevated, and it's clear why she's saying this. She's saying this because she is, I'm sorry to say, a coward. To protect her endorsement deals and her good status at the WNBA, Clark has decided to affirm the single most destructive lie of the generation, which is that white people are inherently indebted to black people because of their skin color, and that black people, solely on account of their skin color, deserve special treatment at the expense of whites. That's what she just came out and endorsed.
I know a lot of you watching this are going to think that those white people like Megyn Kelly, Matt Walsh, are being racist. No, that's not it at all. They're just saying, don't apologize for your whiteness. Don't apologize for your achievement, your hard work. And you don't owe your hard work and your achievements to black people. And it can come off sounding a little bit racy. It can come off sounding a little anti-black. But if you're smart, you'll know better that that's not what they're saying at all. So it's just kind of unfortunate that we have to be having these conversations, and people feel that white people feel the pressure to have to come on TV and these platforms and apologize for their success and their whiteness. And this is why the whole idea of my platform is about black conservatives, because I'm not alone. Most of the people I show these video clips are people like Marcellus Wiley, Jason Whitlock, Candace Owens, and on and on and on. If I can find a black conservative defending conservative values, not being woke, being anti-woke, actually, that's what I'm going to continue to do. That's what I'm going to continue to do. So as I said, I was in Atlantic City, and I heard the news, and I thought, damn, she's the athlete that I like the most in 2024 of all athletes, male or female. I liked her because of who she was and how she was handling herself. And this happened. And as I said in the beginning of the podcast, I was a little bit melancholy coming on today. I felt like Jason Whitlock.
But I read the entire article, and when I was done, I nearly cried. I'm not joking. I nearly cried. And it now that I will add this little bit of joke or humor to it, but I immediately thought of the scene in The Godfather. Look how they massacred my boy. And that's when I read the Time article. I was like, they done massacred Caitlin Clark. The one thing in sports that brought me genuine joy, the one thing in sports where I watched and all the cares left my mind, and all I could think about is, man, I love this little girl. I love what she represents. I love every bit of this. This is awesome. And they've destroyed it. They've destroyed it. I mean, I used to, the way that I felt about Caitlin Clark was how I felt watching Tiger Woods. And I would watch Tiger Woods, whether it was a major championship or just a regular tour event, and it was just utter joy I felt watching Tiger Woods. And they've taken that from me. And it's like, it was the last little thing that I was holding on to about sports that I felt was pure and just like reminded me of the good old days when we could just watch sports and we could root for people and we could root against people. And It wasn't tied to all this political garbage. It wasn't tied to all of the Black Lives Matter and all the woke BS that's splashed all across all the rest of sports. I wasn't sitting around thinking about, her gay lover because she didn't have one.
I don't know what that last sentence was. Jason comes out the woodwork sometimes with some stuff, but he's funny. But if you have to explain something, over-explain something, then it probably shouldn't be involved in sports. It's too complicated. I tried to see how Marcellus Wiley felt about this. So let me look at Marcellus Wiley take. Marcellus Wiley has a great podcast, YouTube channel, and I'm usually down with him. But then I thought he started to mansplain what privilege is. And he spent like 16 minutes explaining privilege, and I was like, see, Caitlin, this is what happens when you go down that tunnel. You're gonna have to start explaining yourself. I'm just gonna show you a little bit of Marcellus trying to explain this.
White privilege really started this, sparked this, and took this in a lot of directions. Privilege is a word that triggers people, but white privilege, I don't think you get any more trigger in our vernacular other than saying the N-word, and I ain't saying ninja. White privilege, because it stokes so many memories. It stokes so much emotion in terms of you were given that and you didn't earn it, right? That's what people were saying when they talk about white privilege. To cut through it, people were saying white people are given unfair advantages because they're simply white. Well, if we're going to really properly define what privilege is before we even get into the other forms of privilege, because there's so many, countless, we're going to start off by saying what privilege is. Let me fix this first because I can't do it.
So he went on and on and on and on. Then he started talking about privilege and how he went to Columbia and blah, 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 blah. And this whole thing becomes this thing about privilege. And my point is, if it's that deep, then it doesn't belong in sports. Winning athlete of the year, you don't need to be talking about white privilege. You don't need to be talking about the black athletes, the white athletes, the athletes of any kind. Just play the damn game. I'm going to end tonight with a Tommy Lauren clip. Tommy Lauren, Outkick Sports. She had this to say, and dead on.
But speaking of bending to the woke mob, my next loser this week is Caitlin Clark, who, congrats to her, was named 2024 Athlete of the Year by Time Magazine. Well deserved. However, that's where my congratulatory sentiment runs out, because in true weak, woke, and cowardly fashion, Clark just had to lament her white privilege as a white player in the WNBA, which apparently, and unbeknownst to me, was made by black women for black women, and the white women, well, they need to pay their privilege toll. It's really annoying to me that she would make this about race, especially when so many have been fighting on her behalf to take race out of the equation and focus on the game and the merit of athletics. So the woke mob can have her. Enjoy it. Enjoy Taylor Swift. Enjoy Jemele Hill. Don't expect the rest of us to defend you anymore. You're on your own.
So I am not throwing her out the window. I'm going to continue to support Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, I think that as she gets older, she'll look back on this and went, I probably, because she may win Athlete of the Year again. She's going to win a lot of awards. She's going to win MVPs. You know, she's already won Rookie of the Year. She won Athlete of the Year, and she's going to continue to win awards. So I have grace in my heart that she's 23 years old and she's around a lot of wokeness. She's in a whole sea of wokeness, the WNBA, and maybe the cliche of if you can't beat them, join them. Got her. So that's my thoughts. And like I said, we'll have to see where this goes. But until next time, it's been great talking to you. I'd love to see some comments. And other than that, peace.